Hey, all right, week 7. Big thing is that we have exam 3. So that is on the chordates. We split that up into two parts. So part 1 was chordates, and then like the primitive ones, and then we looked at fishes and amphibians, and the second one was reptiles, birds, and mammals. All right, so all of that, and then we also had a smaller chapter on primate evolution. So all of that's going to be on the exam. That's Monday. All right. I put a note. I say this all the time, but seriously, on this one especially, on all of them really, but on this one especially, make sure follow the instructions when you're doing your environment video. Make sure after you're done with the video that you don't add anything to your environment or anything like that. Sometimes there's just some miscommunication. Sometimes it's a bigger issue. But what I have to do after you take the test, if there's anything that's fishy, and like Respond to Lockdown Browser will flag certain events if they look like you weren't following the instructions. I have to go through and like check and clear up and verify what was going on in those issues, and that can take a little bit of time. The reason it's important not to do that this time, make sure that you follow the instructions as best as you can. The reason you need to do that is the drop date is Tuesday. So the test is on Monday, the drop date is on Tuesday, the 16th. And I've got to get all of these grades verified and finalized before the drop date. That way you know what your grade is in the class. All right? Sorry, that was a long explanation. Just follow the instructions and you'll be fine. But that test is on Monday. After that, excuse me, you've got a couple lectures that you need to watch. One is on fungi, and then one is on plant diversity part 1. Okay? We kind of split that up into two parts. So the fungi, let me give you a heads up. The fungi chapter there's a lot of details in there. And I think mainly it's just because we've been talking about animals so far. Now we're switching over to a totally different kingdom. So I would kind of space this out maybe. Like take the test on Monday. And then as soon as you get a chance, watch the fungi lecture. Take notes. Let me know if you have any questions, but spend some time with fungi, and then after you feel pretty comfortable with that, later in the week, do the plant diversity part 1. Okay, got both of those lectures, and then you have a review quiz on Friday. So that one's going to be due the 19th, Friday the 19th. It's on fungi and then the plant diversity that you looked at. Since we had a test that week, there's also going to be a discussion board. So this one is not as bad. I put a bunch of different, and most of them are pretty short videos about the different types of chordates we talked about. So watch all the videos, but on at least 2 of them, I want you to write a reply about the video. Something you found fascinating, something we talked about in class, just something along those lines. So just watch those, leave those posts for the discussion board. And then last assignment this week is a lab that's on fungi. Okay? So here's the good news. The hands-on labs kit, they actually didn't have a lab for fungi. So what I'm doing is I've modified a lab that I do in my traditional 104 classes. Now, like if this was a traditional 104, I would have different samples and different things to look at. But we obviously don't have that. So what you're going to do, go to the lab tab, and like usually you would click on the hands-on labs website. Scroll down a little bit lower and there's a folder that says Lab 4 Fungi. So open up that folder, and I've got a video that's recorded that kind of tells you how to do that. The good news for you though is that it's probably going to be a lot shorter because you don't have any dissections or you don't have to take photos and label images or anything. It does have a lot of pictures with things that you have to identify, but there's a guide that you're going to use just to show me that you can identify those. All right, so that's that lab. Like I said, a little bit more heavy on the lecture this week. Sorry, but the good news is a little bit less as far as the amount of time it takes for lab. Okay, last thing, and I'll put the reminder down at the very bottom. I said that, first off, said that the Tuesday, the 16th, is the last day to withdraw. So as soon as you see this, I want you to check your grade in this class. And if you're failing or if your grade is lower than you need it to be right now, contact me as soon as possible, and I can look at your grade. I can see like here's what you're going to need to make from here on out to finish with whatever grade you're shooting for. But let me know, because if you don't drop, and like if you're doing great in this class, don't worry about all this. But if you're kind of struggling and you decide that you do not want to drop, that means that you are locked in the class, and whatever grade you finish with, that's you get that grade. After the 16th, you don't have any more options or choice in the matter. So if your grade might be a little lower than you need it to be, just get in touch with me. All right, lastly, here's the other thing, is that so far it's worked out where all of our exams have been on Monday. But the next exam, I know we're worried about exam 3 right now, but exam 4 is going to be Friday of next week. So that's going to be the 26th, April 26th. Okay. So just be aware of that. The next one is going to be on a Friday. I've got to do that just to get them all in before the final. But anyway, just make a note of that because that's a little bit different than the schedule we've had so far. Okay, so there you go. If you have any questions, if you need help with anything, send me a message or you can call me during office hours and I'll be glad to help. Thanks.